So there's a colony of Aphnias arbutus that is burrowing into a unique little flower pot we have here. I believe this came out of a boat. So my dad used to enjoy doing that, but a lot of ants have moved into it now. Here in a solar light is some Tapenoma sessile. I've been watching them bring brood into this tube that I guess must go farther down. Also a Camponotus pennsylvanicus worker foraging around. I don't know where they nest, is an interesting issue. They are nectar scraping on the violets that come up randomly in this plant here. I also have strawberries planted in here, which are nearing the end, so hopefully hopefully they're pollinated and I get some fruit out of them. But this is turning into a bit of a hub of ant activity here. Lasius umbratus workers. You can see that along with being orange, they have a dinginess to them. I forget the other traits, whether they have large eyes or not. I'm not looking at them at the right angle here. Get a better focus line. I tend to find these in dry wood. There are aphids inside of this Chamacia. It's a little late in the afternoon, but the ants weren't actually out here before then. See, this is the plant here. There are little aphids in there. There was just a bee on here, so the ants are all excited. Oh, he's back. Bees trying to pollinate the plant, and I didn't notice these aphids last week when I did the previous episode. But they're out. Back on another day, same pawpaw tree. This is Lasius alanius, which I'm trying to track, but apparently I'm on the wrong side of the branch. But they're running all along this tree here, just kind of looking for stuff to eat. There's also a Camponotus I noticed on some of the other branches. This is Camponotus suburbatus. In ants of New England, they say the identifying characteristic is purple stripes on the gaster. I think that's misleading. I would say the fact that the gaster is maybe not quite totally black, but I'd say the slight hint of yellow there is more distinguishing of the species. Especially on larger majors and queens, they usually have yellow bands all the way around the gaster, especially if they're more full of food. And what it is it's like an underneath the plates, there's like a membrane that's actually a yellow color. So as they consume food, these expand and expose the yellow trait to the world, which makes them pretty simple to identify from other small Camponotus. Camponotus suburbatus, investigating a flower to a water leaf that has fallen. Alright, it is mid to late afternoon, and the Ozark Trillium patch I have here is absolutely swarming with ant food. I mean, vinegar flies, which are the same ones that I believe you sell in the store. And I do see a few ants running around here. Thing is, they're not really going after them to hunt. I think they're just nectar scraping on the plants. They're in there. But I'm sure a few of these have to have gotten captured or something. But anyway, what's going on here is the plant starts producing a foul odor. It smells kind of like fermenting apples. It's like has a very cidery kind of fragrance to it. And that causes the flies to fly down into the flower, where they get, they start bumping into one another, and they walk over the pollen anthers, and they go from one plant to the next, to the next, to the next. And of all the plants in my yard that produce some sort of odor, this one in particular, the Ozark Trillium, does the best job of it. I see an ant on the end there, crawling about. Looks like a Camponotus, I think. Yes. Oh, actually, here, what might be Camponotus discolor, or whatever the name is. I don't know what happened to this trillium here. Some sort of winter damage or something prevented it from flowering. There is a disease that prevents asters from flowering, though usually it'll just turn all the petals green. Hasn't shown up in my yard yet, but I keep an eye out for it. But anyway, I'm going to collect a few of these and see if my captive colony enjoys eating ants. What else do we have over here? I suppose I could mention this while we're here. This is Trillium flexipes, which I believe has been pollinated by something, but you see how different the flower looks. It's actually white, bright, and attractive, and shining, and here's a better one, maybe, to look at that. Those are pollinated by actual bees, who go from one flower to the next, along with Trillium grandiflorum, which I have about here, just not in any. I'd have to move to show you them. They're down there, but you know, they look slightly. They look kind of like this, but different petals, different pollen color, and they're all pollinated by bees. But Trillium flexipes actually produces a bright red berry that's full of seeds later on, which I believe will be a little bit more attractive if successful. Sometimes, you know, animals make off with them, or the stems become damaged and such. But anyway, this is lots of activity here happening. There's a clump of Trillium grandiflorum, and you can see why people like to plant this so much more than flexipes, perhaps, and other ones. It's just a little pop of yellow for all the pollen in there. Flexipes doesn't have as nice of a pollen color. It's actually kind of a bland white color. But behind it, we have some of the called water leaf flowering, which is nowhere near its peak bloom, but it's starting to come up, and I usually see ants stealing nectar from that. Other plants here, Virginia bluebells finishing up, friendly Phacelia on its way out. That's other things. I do see ants stealing nectar from these. Ants focus a lot on stealing nectar because the primary diet of them is actually most of them are herbivores to some degree. You know, it comes from plants. They're not all hunting insects and things. They're in some way consuming plants, either the seeds, the nectar, or the you know, product of aphids and scale insects and things like that. So it's important to have plants around for naturally feeding ants. Here we have Golden Alexander, which is just starting to flower. They usually get aphids right underneath the flowers there, but they also get like weird, I believe some sort of caterpillar produces that, or some disease or something. Some insect is doing that to the leaves here. But I get Tapenoma and Lasius all over these, and right underneath here, I can focus in on where it is. This is one of the woodland poppies, which is growing, if I can move some stuff out here. So we have these that are actually flowering. That ant there is an Islandria. Poppies don't actually produce any nectar, or if they do, it's like a very small amount. You'll never find like poppy flavored honey or anything along those lines. But anyway, other plants have also gone to seed here, or they're about to open up those pods. And the great thing about this plant for seeing the process of Myrmecocori is you'll have lots of flower pods, or seed pods, and lots of flowers at the same time on one individual plant. It's not, you don't get, like with trilliums, it's one flower, one pod per year. So it's, you know, a little daunting to, you're putting all your eggs in one basket there. Where am I seeing this? Where are we? Oh, there we are. Virginia bluebells are finishing now, and I see there's still some sort of food inside here, as a Tapenoma seseli found something nice. Back with the Camassia, our little aphid colony is spreading quite a bit. Just a day ago, this was maybe, I don't know, say a dozen aphids, and I see tons of the little ones now. So a failing with ants is they don't really require native plants to survive or feed or anything. You know, they're more than happy to live in the dead wood of a non-native tree, or work the aphids that come with a non-native plant. But there is a certain benefit insect-wise when you have native plants, because you're more likely to get insects that specialized on eating those plants. And while they're not eating caterpillars and things directly, they are eating, like when a caterpillar sheds its skin, or a spider sheds, its exoskeleton, that is still in some way food for ants to clean up. And ultimately, when these things, the adult butterfly or moth dies, ants are there to sweep the forest floor clean. This is a different species of Camassia that I grow. It's a small bulb, much smaller plant than the other one that I have. And this one seems to be producing nectar that's more favorable to certain types of ants. This looks like, it's actually hard to tell. I think I'm going to say Tapenoma seseli, just because they're notorious for stealing nectar. And yes, that is Tapenoma seseli. But I don't see any aphids on this particular plant, so we need to find that Camponotus have a taste for certain types of nectar, while Tapenoma are more broad about their requirements. So Trillium grandiflorum, past its prime, slowly turns like a pink and magenta color. Ants venture around on this plant, but I don't think they find any nutrients on it. I don't think it does anything nectar scraping wise. Actually, I'm tempted to say, just because it's a single stem leading up to 3 leaves, leading up to a flower at the top of 3 leaves, that it's just designed to sort of encourage foragers to get stuck up there a little bit, because I often find ants on these plants, but I don't think they offer much nutritional value for their time. But, they turn pretty. Back on another day, this is the little ornamental holly here, which is, usually it's more full of flowers than what it is now. But some of the branches are dying out because it's getting strangled by Dutchman's pipe, which is another plant I grow. Has nothing to do with ants. Actually, I have a theory that the seeds to this plant are actually dispersed by ants, but I've been unable to test that because it needs to cross-pollinate, because I need 2 of these humongous vines to get to a flowering age, and I have 1 flowering, but not the other. So, key to growing these seems to be keeping the roots shaded. So, down in here, not shaded, and the sun came out. So let's make some adjustments here. So all these violets will hopefully do that job. Okay. So this is a weed in my yard. It's actually probably a weed in almost everyone's yard. I believe it's called henbin, or some variation of that. And it's coming to the end of its life cycle here. It is an annual, so if you just chop it down, you can control its population pretty easily. But I'm seeing Tetramorium stealing nectar from it. Also, let's see, Formica pallidifolva, more Formica, or more Tetramorium. There were Nylandria here earlier. See if I can locate any. We'll have a look. Normally Tetramorium colonies focus more on seeds, which I do see them bringing in from random grasses and various wildflowers from my meadow garden out here, which is sort of blooming here. But I have a pot here that they've also moved into, and I was trying to be decorative, I have a Camassia in here, I've got a couple asters, probably put, like a flat of something else in there. But they've come up, they've aerated it, and I have all these random grasses. There's like a clover in here, or a... It's another name for clover, I forgot what it is, but they have all these weeds coming up that are likely from seeds that this colony is bringing in. And if I come around this way, we have a bunch of hollow stems from the asters from last year. And this one, I believe a mason bee has taken up. See, all these perennials, they all die back to the ground. So it leaves a hollow stem pretty much there. And in this one, I happen to be seeing lots of temnothracts going in and out. They're sharing a nest entrance hole with a spider, apparently. But somewhere in this stick here, that goes down into the Tetramorium colony, actually, there is a temnothrax colony. Oh, and there is a spider that I see sometimes mimicking Crematogaster. I believe they steal the brood to the Crematogaster cross-eye, but he's off looking for something. I'm sure they'll, take a random ant also. Along with tandem running, temnothrax usually pick up one another to guide the other nestmates to their nests. And filming around one side of the stick. Figures they would have a nest entrance on the underside of this thing. It's a pain in the ass to see. First hummingbird of the year. Not the best angle to shoot the coral honeysuckle, as a lot of it's died out, but this is one of the plants that they migrate north with. And like that, he's gone. Let's take a closer look at this plant, because it's actually, I don't know why people plant the Asian one. There we are. Yeah, bright pink flowers, orange centers. It actually gets hummingbirds, unlike the Japanese kind. It's also invasive and invades forests. This is actually not invasive. Actually, I barely see the thing reseed anywhere. Might need cross-pollination from a hummingbird, but it's cool that I'm seeing hummingbirds, because I usually don't see them until like a month or two later. Anyway, this is coral honeysuckle. Alright, there is a Tetramorium war someplace. I can tell because there is a 3-inch long foraging line coming out of this one colony. Oh, right around the corner. And we have another line of the opposing colony right here. Though it looks like most are retreating. I guess they got too close to the other nest and they went full force, because they are within inches of getting overrun here. I mean, it's just this clearing and then there's their nest. Like right there, but they have entrances in this tuft of grass. It would be nice if these colonies would destroy one another, because I have at least 10 or so in my yard. This is common milkweed, Asclepias, I believe it's seriosa or something like that. It's a native plant I'm starting to embrace this year. I know it grows nuts with root suckers and stolons and huge tap roots and such, and takes over quite an area, but I decided, you know, why not? Other milkweeds, they kind of come and go in my yard, so let's see what the worst of the worst can do here. And I actually see aphids on these plants. Usually they get oleander aphids, which are bright orange, but here you see a little green one. So we'll see what ant activity happens with these. These shoots here belong to Asclepias tuberosa, which is another milkweed, sometimes called butterfly weed. And you can see it's not anywhere near as far along as the common milkweed, because it's up to the knuckle. Plenty of other species. This one in particular seems to be among the slowest to emerge. This is a Joe Pye weed, which grows under the eastern redbud. I forget which species this is, but it's the more shade tolerant of the lot. And underneath the leaves to the new growth, Comatogaster crossi, found some aphids. Coming down this way, you can see it's somewhat to the detriment of the plant. Too many aphids. The tip of the stalk will actually wilt, which is usually where they produce their flowers, which are actually kind of showy in their own way. Let's see if I can get that. They don't have a monopoly on the aphids though, as I see another little Camponotus here. I believe that's Suburbatus. Also working with some aphids, or at least hanging out around some. Found a former yellow jacket nest I never knew about. It's just here in this log I just flipped over. You can see how small they are. The little cells there, but they only last a year, so thankfully this one's long since passed away, but it's weird that I never knew that it was right here by my fence.